Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Jayam Vishnupad Paramamsa Parvakacharya Sutara Sasashina is a vine grace, a bite Saranavinda Bhakti Vinanta Swami. Kila Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupad Paramamsa Parvakacharya Sutara Sasashina is a vine grace, Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati Goswami. Kila Prabhupada ki Shri Guru Parampara ki, Shri Rup, Shri Sanatan, Shri Bhadranath, Shri Prakapala Bhatta Das Arunath ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki, Pepsico, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda ki, Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Gopinath ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki, Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki, Ganga Maya Yamuna Maya ki, Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi ki, Shri Radha Manohar ki, Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Gaura Premanande. All glories to the Assembly of Buddhists. All glories to the Assembly of Buddhists. All glories to the Assembly of Buddhists. All glories to you and Shiguranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Padaya Srimati Bhakti Charisamatamani. Snita Setsa Pansa Bhaktinam Sarva Prasaptatam Prabhajtapanam Nama Bhakti Shrutam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sinhavadi Paskachani Tesatani Srila Prabhupada ki. I'm very happy to be with you this evening, that these moments that we are together to discuss the glories of the Supreme Lord are very wonderful and unique. Lord Krishna says, I'm not in Vaikuntha, but I'm there in that place where my pastimes are glorified. That where we glorify Krishna, Krishna is there. And today I will read from the Bhagavad Gita, trying to repeat the words of our previous acharyas. So nothing is coming from me. I'm only the medium. We will read from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. Contents of the Gita summarized, text 51. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Bhagavad Gita 251. Karmajam buddhiyukta hi phalam tyaktva manishina. Janma bandha vinirmukta padam gacchant anamayam. Translation. By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the result of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead. So to become free from the cycle of birth and death, what is required? Engage in devotional service. And what happens then? Please? You become free from the results of your karma, the results of your work. And then you become free from the cycle of birth and death. And then what happens? That you go back to Godhead. That's the sequence, 4 things. Right? Engage in devotional service. Plus the second one.
Free from the results of
work. And third one.
Free from the cycle of
birth and death. And the fourth one.
Well, go back home.
Okay. Now we will read the commentary of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The liberated living entities belong to that place where there are no material miseries. So that's our home. The Bhagavatam 10:14-58 says, 10th canto, chapter 14, as the prayers of Lord Brahma, the Brahma Moalila, that text 58. Samasritaye padapalava plavam mahat patam punyaya somurare bhavam buddhir vatsapadam param padam 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 yat vipadam natesham. For one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, special boat, the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Mukunda, or the giver of mukti. The ocean of material world is like the water contained in a calf's footprint. Parampadam, or the place where there are no material miseries, or Vaikuntha, is its goal, not a place where there is danger at every step. Owing to ignorance, one does not know that this material world is a miserable place where there are dangers at every step. Out of ignorance, only less intelligent persons try to adjust to the situation by fruitive activities, thinking that the resulted actions will make them happy. They do not know that no kind of material body anywhere within the universe can give life without miseries. The miseries of life, namely birth, death, old age, and disease, are present everywhere within the material world. But one who understands his real constitutional position as the eternal servitor of the Lord and thus knows the position of the personality of Godhead, engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Consequently, he becomes qualified to enter into the Vaikuntha planets, where there is neither material miserable life nor influence of time and death. To know one's constitutional position means to know also the sublime position of the Lord. When he wrongly thinks that the living entity's position and the Lord's position are on the same level, is to be understood to be in darkness, and therefore unable to engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. He becomes a Lord himself and thus paves the way for the repetition of birth and death. But one who, understanding that his position is to serve, transfers himself to the service of the Lord, at once becomes eligible for Vaikuntha Loka. Service for the cause of the Lord is called Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, or in plain words, devotional service to the Lord. Read the verse once again. Karmajam buddhiyuktari valam tyaktva manishina janma bandha vinirmukta padam gacchantana mayam. By thus engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, great sages and devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead. Chichetanyamanopishtam staptam yena bhutale svamrupakadamyam dadati svapadantika. Pandeham shiu shiuda padkamam sigum vaishnavamsa Sirupam jagajatam saganaragnatam vitam tam sajivam sadvaitam sardutam parajanasaitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sakalita Shivashakam Vitam Shan He Krishna Karuna Sinudina Bando Jyatpate Gopesha Gopka Kanta Kantanastati Tapta Kansana Gauna Girati Vindavaneshwari Vishabhan Sutadevi Pranamaha Maripi Pankha Kalpta Visha Kripa Sunvevisha Patinam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadhika Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastai Bhatre Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Bhaskachaya Disatami Srila Prabhupada This verse and purport gives us the essence of devotional service. It states the goal, going back to Godhead by developing devotion to Krishna. That it states the means, devotional service. That's the way how to do it, acting in our relationship with Krishna. But in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, first, before you can do that, you must know your constitutional position, who we are. As long as we don't realize who we are, we are fearful. What is the greatest fear of people in this world? Krishna says in 2:27, Shatasya I Durvomrityur, Dhruvam Jannam Ritasyasa. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. Fear of death, that is the greatest fear people have. But as long as you have that fear, you don't have realized your constitutional position. You did not realize who you are. Because we think we are this body. That's the problem. That's explained in the beginning of the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There, the cause of fear is explained. That this is Kavi Yogendra. These Navi Yogendras, 9 great Paramahamsa sages, who come to visit King Nimi, and King Nimi asked each of them a question. And this question is about fear. And it's Kavi Yogendra who answers. And what is his answers? So, in fear means in Sanskrit bhaya. So Srila Prabhupada's name was Abhay Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami. Abhay, fearless. Bhayam. So Bhayam means fear. Bhayam Tvitiya Biniveshatasyat Ishata Petasya Viparya Smriti Tanmayayato Buddha Abhajetam Bhaktya Kayasam Gudevatatma. Fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as the material body. That's where fear arises. Because the body dies, we don't die. We are misidentifying with the body. And this misidentification with the body takes place in the mind. In the mind, we misidentify with the body. And what does us identify with the body is because the pure consciousness of the spirit soul is contaminated by the modes of nature, passion and ignorance. And it's lust that causes this misidentification, lust, anger, and greed. That Krishna says lust, anger, and greed are gates to hell. And this identifying with the body is hell. That's hell. Because with the body, everything will go wrong. Krishna says it takes birth, it will die. The body. So the living entity identifies himself. Why? That abhinivesatatsya, because of absorption in the external illusory energy of the Lord, which is material modes. So when the living entity turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. So that's what we have done. We didn't want to know Krishna. And when you forget Krishna, you forget who you are and you identify falsely with the body. So we forget that we are a servant of Krishna. And we come in the service of Maya. We are servants. You cannot either serving Krishna or serving Maya. It's another point, but we have to serve that. So this bewildering, fearful condition is affected by the potency for illusion called Maya. Right. Therefore, an intelligent person should engage unflinchingly in
Devotion service.
unalloyed devotional service. Must be pure, no material motive, unalloyed devotional service. And one should do that under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. And that, and he should accept his bona fide spiritual master as his worshipable deity and his very life and soul. So that's the way to get out of illusion, unalloyed devotion, service to the Supreme Lord. So this is the essence of come out of this fear that, but in the prayers of Queen Kunti, she explains how to come out of the cycle of birth and death. That's 1836. Shivanti Gayanti Hinanta Bhikshan Snasa Smaranti Nandanti Tafetam Shana Daiva Pashanta Chirena Tavakam Bhava Pravaho Paramam Palambujam. O Krishna, those who continually hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities, or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. What alone can stop the repetition of birth and death? Yes, that's, and they take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And we read a verse in the purport here from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which speaks about the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And to what is that compared to? A boat, yeah. And when we take that boat, then what happens with the material world? It becomes like the water in a calf's hoofprint, easily to cross over, taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. That, but it says, those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities. It says continuously. Continuously. What's the easy method how to do that? How to do that? Always chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. We should always be with Krishna and see Krishna in everything. Krishna says, if you see Krishna in everything, if you see the super soul in everything, what happens? What does Krishna say?
You're never lost.
We are never lost. Yeah. We are protected. We are on the boat that always chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord. That so we have therefore we have the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam if we absorb in the Srimad Bhagavatam, then we can continuously hear, chant, and repeat transcendental activities. And what happens when we do that? 177 of the Bhagavatam. 177, first canto, 7th chapter. 7th chapter is Srila Vyasadeva. Srila Vyasadeva has been instructed by Narada Muni, his spiritual master, who said to Srila Vyasadeva, yes, you should meditate now on the absolute truth with devotion and write the Bhagavatam. And 177 gives the effect from his meditation. Yasyam vashuyamanayam Krishna parama puse bhaktir utpatyate pumsa sukamoya bhayapaha. Bhayapaha. What is bhaya? Fear. That, and paha?
Lamentation.
Yeah.
It's extinction.
It's bhaya, it's a sandhya. That's, it's bhaya and apaha. Apaha means, here it's translated as that which extinguishes. That which extinguishes bhaya, fearfulness. So the person, simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. LIF. Never forget it. You hear the Bhagavatam, and what do you get? LIF. That's lamentation, illusion, and fear gone. That, so if we want to extinguish this fear, why is that when you hear the Bhagavatam? Because the Bhagavatam is based on explaining devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That, even hearing the Bhagavatam is first-class devotional service. And it's just given oral reception. Oral reception. Yes, that's to the ear. Pavantarit karma rasayana kata. That's it. Is what we should do is satam prasangam, associating with the satam. Prasangam means associating with satam. Satam are the devotees. Sat is eternal. Satam, devotees, pure devotees. And that's Satam Prasangam. And what are they doing, these pure devotees? Mama Virya Sambhuta. Their intelligence, their mind is absorbed in my hearing my pastimes. Bhavanti it karna. Bhavanti. It comes down to from the karna, the ear, to the rit, the heart. Bhavanti it karna. And in the heart is what happens when we hear it. Asayana kata. We relish the pastimes of Krishna in the heart. And what happens then? Dat Yosanat Abavarga Vartmani. We are being put on the path of liberation. And this path is going from Shraddha, Rati, Bhaktir, Anukramishati. Bhaktir, Anukramishati. Anukramishati is name of Krishna. This Bhakti for Krishna begins with Shraddha, faith. And then after the heart is purified, we get Ruchi, taste, transcendental taste. And then we become attracted, this Ruchi, to Krishna. But first, before we come to Ruchi, you must first become Nishta, study in pure devotional service. But before coming to Nishta, you must purify your heart. That's called Anartha Nivritti. And to purify your heart, you have to do what's in this verse, Bhajana Kriya, the practice. And that practice we must learn by Sadhu Sangha, by accepting a bona fide spiritual master and learn from him. But it starts with faith. Faith is important in the whole process of devotional service. Krishna says at the end of the 4th chapter, for the faithless, there is no success in this life, not in the next. One who is faithless cannot going on this path. But one who is faithful in this transcendental knowledge, he can progress quite quickly. So faith is required. That faith comes from the hearing of the Bible, comes from the right source. When faith comes from hearing from those who have faith. And faith, they have faith from realization, factual experience. Devotional service becomes factual experience. It's an experience of living with Krishna in the heart every moment. It's factual. But you can only experience it when the heart is purified. As long as the heart is purified, you cannot come in contact with Krishna in the heart. See, the demigods Krishna is in their heart of the demigods. But they don't feel Krishna in their heart. They cannot, because they have still material desires to fulfill. Slight material desires, but even a slight material desires closes the door. Therefore, we must completely become purified. So that's the process of devotional service. And Krishna summarizes this process in the Bhagavad Gita in 4:10. Pita raga bhaya krodha mamaya mamupashrita bhavukana tapasa putamad bhavam agata. Many great sages in the past have become free from attachment, fear, and anger. Again, this fear and anger. And they became free by absorption in and practice of transcendental knowledge. By that, their hearts became purified and they developed love for me. So many great sages have done it in the past. So why not us? So that's an encouraging verse that to make advancement in devotional service. It's a process of purification. That process was the essence of that process. Machita machata prana bodha jantus praspram katayantu samam nitya tushanti saram tusha. That machita machata prana, the taking discussions about Krishna as one's life and soul. That and these discussions, they are in itself relishable, ramantica. It's nectar. That so there, although this is the process, by following this process, that we become purified. That we become purified in heart. And then, but one may say, yes, this purification of the heart, it may take many years. How can I relish this Bhagavatam and these pastimes? But even if your heart is impure, you can relish the Bhagavatam. If your motivation is pure, that's important. Motivation must be pure. Therefore, we just said unalloyed devotional service. The verse says, unalloyed, pure devotional service means only with the desire to please Krishna, nothing for myself. Rupa Goswami gives the definition of pure devotion. There are many definitions of pure devotion that we should learn them. That the first is Rupa Goswami's definition. Anya bilasta sunyam jnana karmata navitam anukulyena Krishnan silnam bhaktir uttama. Pure devotional service, Rupa Goswami said, is that service which is without material motivation, only to please Krishna favorably. That and without desire for liberation. That such devotional service is pure devotional service. That, but Narada Muni has a different definition. Sarvopadi nirmuktam tatparat vana nirmanam rishikena sevinam bhakti uttama. The highest form of bhakti uttama, pure devotional service, is that service to please the senses, spiritual senses of Rishikesh, the Supreme Lord, executed without any upadis, without misidentification. One identifies himself not as the body, but as a servant of Krishna. So in that mood, we should always perform devotional service without false ego, with our real ego, servant of Krishna. Who are we? Lord Chaitanya said, Gopi Bhakta Kamala Udas and Udas and Udas. We are the servant of the servant of the servant, of the lover of the gopis, which is Krishna. That is our real activity. It's this acting as our real self. And then there is also the definition of pure devotee, pure devotional service by Sutta Goswami. Savai pumsa paroda moyato bhaktiya doksaya ahait kapatiyata yatma suprasidati. This pure devotional service, Sutta Goswami said, yatma suprasidati. Prasidati is pleasing. Suprasidati, very pleasing. It's very pleasing to the soul, ecstatic. But to get it, one must perform the highest duty for every human. And the highest duty is performing this devotional service. But to be pure, it must have two qualities. Ahaituk apatiyata. Ahaituk means without material motive, only to please Krishna out of love. That. And apatiyata means always, continuously, whatever you do. Krishna suggests already that practice in the Gita. Yat karosi atasnasi atyos dadasi atyatapasyas kantya tat kushmamat arpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you sacrifice, whatever austerity you do it to me as a sacrifice to me. And these are the teachings of the Gita, that this is our practice. We act, we must learn to act in our life only for the pleasure of Krishna. And if we take shelter of Krishna, Krishna will provide for all our needs. That on the condition that we have performed pure devotional service. And he says that also in the Gita, Ananya Sintyantamam Yechna Paripashti Tesam Nitya Yuknam Yogakshema Ramyam. He says, yes, that Krishna says, I preserve all the spiritual advance my devotee has made, and I give him more and more opportunities to perform devotional service. That is spiritual care, that Krishna takes care of it. And our material needs, we don't have to bother too much about these things. That this morning during the class in Diland, that devotee asked us, but we have to deal with so many things during the day, which has nothing to do with Krishna. How can we remain absorbed in Krishna consciousness? For this, we have to remember this verse of Queen Kunti and also the other verse, giving oral reception to the Bhagavatam. And we become free from lamentation, illusion, and fear. And the other verse we read of Queen Kunti, 1:8-37, that one who hears the Bhagavatam, that he becomes free from the cycle of birth and death. So we need to absorb us in the Bhagavatam every day. That's a Prabhupada's instruction. Every day we should have Bhagavatam class. Read Bhagavatam every day. That have sufficient reading. 2 hours a day, Prabhupada's book. And then whatever you do, you will healthy see connected with Krishna. You will come out of illusion. But you have to take your medicine. Otherwise, we cannot enter the spiritual platform. We need to take the medicine. And that is what Sukadev Goswami at the beginning of the 10th canto says to Maharaj Pariksit. Because Maharaj Pariksit, because we are now nearly at the end of the 9th canto. And in the 9th canto, you have all these descriptions of these dynasties. And in the last chapter, 23, we are now 21, I think. 23, I think, is the last one, where the dynasty, the Soma dynasty is described. And Krishna is mentioned there, and Balaram. So at the beginning of the 10th canto, naturally, Maharaj Pariksit is asking Sukadev Goswami, please tell me more about Krishna. But what is the reply in 10.1.4 by Sukadev Goswami? Nivrita terser pagyamanat bavasadak vamanubiranat. Bavasadak, did you take your medicine of Bavasadak? that's Nirvita Serpagiamanat, Babastak, Shotva, Manobia. Did you hear sufficient about Krishna? Did you think you take your medicine? Did you hear attentively the last 9 cantos, which explain how everything is connected with Krishna? Otherwise, because only then you are Nirvita Tarser, you are free from lust. Otherwise, you cannot understand Krishna. So that's the wonder. If we study systematically the Bhagavatam from the first canto till the 9th, all the cantos, you become free from lust when you come at the 10th. And then the heart is clean, and then you will see Krishna in the pages of the Bhagavatam. And that is explained in 1.3.34, I think. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks 1.3.43. Yeah, in the last verse of the 3rd chapter of the first canto. Srila Prabhupada in the purport explains how to extract Krishna from the pages of the Bhagavatam. And how to do that is explained. That it's in the last verse, it's 44, it's not mentioned here. But the translation is, Sutta Goswami says, I will tell you the same thing as I heard from my spiritual master with rapt attention. And I will explain you what I heard it with rapt attention from my spiritual master, according to my realization. And that is what the spiritual master does. He explains according to his realization but with rapt attention. That's very important. If we want to have the effect of the hearing the Bhagavatam, we must hear with rapt attention. Forget everything else when you hear the Bhagavatam. Only the Bhagavatam. But to give rapt attention to something, Srila Prabhupada writes in a purport, one must be, to give rapt attention, one must be pure in mind. And to be pure in mind, because that's important, because sometimes we read a verse, and then you close the book, what do you remember? Many times not much. It means we are impure in mind. We cannot give full attention. If you give full attention, you remember that. And that's a problem. That I have a very elevated spiritual master. Unfortunately, he left us Bhakti Charamaj. And he gave us the instruction. Every day before the Bhagavatam, you should memorize the verse. And know the verse by heart before the class. Nobody of us could do that, but he was elevated, he could do that. He knew the Bhagavatam very deeply. But one must be pure in mind. And to be pure in mind, Srila Prabhupada said, one must be pure in his habits. One must live in goodness. Goodness. Get early up in the morning, take a bath, externally, internally by chanting Hare Krishna. So this cleanliness next to godliness, that's goodness. Peaceful, doing one thing after another, not trying to jump to things. Peaceful, but continuously. That's the mode of goodness. Do one thing at a time with full attention. Whatever you do with full attention. One after another. That's goodness. So we must be pure in our habits, in goodness. that and pure in our sleeping, eating, meeting, defending. Srila Prabhupada says, yes, we should be in goodness. That, and then we can make progress. So it means we have a lifestyle as a devotee. It's not just hearing, the lifestyle must also be there. Getting early up in the morning and with full attention hear the Bhagavatam. Anyway, this is much more to say about that, about overcoming fear, but I explained some essential points, I think. Any questions? Yes, please.
Maharaj, when we get old, sometime we have to, the doctor said you have to go and walk for 1 hour a day. Is it considered like a devotional service to do a walk if it's good for you and your body and your mind and things like that?
Srila Prabhupada said health first. Otherwise, it's difficult to do devotional service.
I didn't understand.
Srila Prabhupada said health should come first.
Okay.
So that's very important. But if you walk, you chant Hare Krishna. You chant Hare Krishna, japa walk. Never do things unconnected with Krishna. Connect it always with Krishna. You go to the hospital, you must wait there, you read Bhagavad Gita, or you have a headphone, you hear Prabhupada. Always be busy with Krishna. That's important. Something else? Yes.
So you said always mode of goodness is you do one thing at a time. But what about if we do something else that's kind of repetitive while we hear Bhagavatam class? Like let's say, when you cut vegetables and you hear Bhagavatam class, is that still in the mode of goodness or is that?
That's transcendental hearing Prabhupada. That's transcendental. But some activities you can do like that. Cutting vegetables. That and here, that's okay. That you drive a car and you hear a lecture. You cannot give full attention, but you will get benefit. Certainly. That it's not the most ideal situation. But sometimes we have to be practical. Better hear than not hearing in such a situation. So that's okay. That's when we cook for the deities, we hear Prabhupada. That's fine. Yes.
Thank you so much. I heard you were saying that Shraddha is the first step in devotion service. What ignites what's the action to grow that? I mean, what's ignite the fire of faith?
Is coming in contact with Krishna consciousness, and that can be in many ways. For me, sometimes it's going slow. I got a Krishna book from a devotee, and it remains 3-4 years on the top of my library. And then I started to read it. I was thinking, oh, some mythology, nice stories from India. And I was reading it every evening, 3-4 pages. And after 2 years reading, I was halfway the book. And it dawned on me, this Swami is answering all my questions of life here. And so the seed was planted. It took the time that So it can be in many names. You can sometimes people go to our temples and they hear a Swami, and then the Swami wakes them up in the lecture, and suddenly they start to realize, yes, who am I? What am I doing here? And their spiritual life is started. Or they hear the Harinam and they become interested in devotees. That their spiritual life begins. Does the seed come in so many ways? Yeah, Hare Krishna.
So in the beginning, what you said is about the life. So when our souls leave our body and go to Lord Krishna, why do we always want to come back to the earth? Why don't our souls want to stay with Lord Krishna?
Yeah, that's a good question. That it's because in a simple way, very simple way, we do not want to do everything out of love for Krishna. We want also things for ourselves. If you want things for yourself and not for Krishna, we stay here. That if we want to give everything to Krishna, we don't need anything. Krishna takes care of us. But we need to want it. And that's in a very simple way. That, yes, that if we want to go to Krishna, we must learn to love Krishna. But if we want also to love ourselves and our body and all what we need, then our love is not pure. Then we come back.
Is it like a Maya? We go there and we always want to come back because we think the world is big and it has all the things that we need. And also the one thing that we don't understand or like we don't realize is that also it's spiritual challenges to have like the life. So if you give like all of yourself to Krishna, like he will take care of the challenges.
Yeah, that's true. So if we think that I need sense gratification, I need to take care of this body, that's my goal in life, and I want to enjoy this body, then we want sense gratification, things which are provided by our body to the senses, this so-called enjoyment. Then as long as we have that tendency, we stay here, because then we cannot be happy in the spiritual world, because in the spiritual world is no sense gratification. That we must go to a higher enjoyment. And this enjoyment is called spiritual ecstasy, it's called ananda. That's a higher consciousness. That's explained in the Brahmaputra Pratishta. There are 5 levels of consciousness. Annamoya is food conscious, like the animals, they want food, right? Pranamoya is conscious that there also are other living entities who want also food. I have to defend myself. And then you have Jnanamoya. Jnanamoya is the consciousness of the human being. I'm thinking, feeling, willing, but it's all the body. But then a higher consciousness is Vijnanamoya, in which you realize I'm not this body. I'm different from this body. I'm the consciousness in the body. And the consciousness doesn't die. The body dies. And I'm that consciousness, I'm that spirit soul. And that spirit soul can exist without the body if we are on the spiritual platform. But to come on that spiritual platform, then when we understand that, then we are Krishna conscious on the theoretical level. We understand it, but then we have to practice it, and that's called devotional service. And that purifies ourselves from this tendency to enjoy the body. And then when the heart is pure, we feel ecstasy. And that consciousness is called Ananda Moya. And that's our pure consciousness. So by performing devotional service, we come to that pure consciousness. And you become happy in all circumstances. And you are not attached anymore to sense gratification. You know the body is a machine given by Krishna. And we keep it running nicely. Therefore, we have to eat, but not to enjoy. You understand that? And then Ananda Moya. Then, once you feel that bliss, you give up the lower enjoyment in this world. And yeah, we must come to that point. Yes.
What if we are doing something material that could potentially serve the primal goal of life? So if we're doing something materially and it becomes the secondary, is it still material or is it transcendental? And the goal is to offer it to Krishna.
Well, it's nice that you say it becomes secondary, but it depends what that means. Secondary, like one can say I have a body and I have to feed the body. We can see that that's secondary, but what's your motivation to feed the body? That we feed the body because we need it for devotional service. Therefore, we eat only prasad, and then it's transcendental. But if you eat out of enjoyment, but you want also devotional service, that's going to clash. Not going to work. Your progress will be stagnant. So that we have to consider. Good. Yes, please.
My question is, when we read the book of Srila Prabhupada, the Bhagavad Gita, or Bhagavad Gita, how is the best way to read it? Inside ourselves? If I am alone at home because I cannot share with, because they said we have to read the books with some other devotees to get the more power benefit. But if we read alone, it is better to read with a loud voice or just inside ourselves. It can be anything.
Well, it depends on your power of concentration. But when I'm alone, what I do, I started to do that recently. That I read loudly and I record it, and I hear it afterwards again, and also others can hear it. And so that's a way. If you read loudly, it may have a deeper effect. Because if you read only in the mind, it may the mind may, you may read it, your lips may move, but then the mind is not registered really. But it helps when you read loudly. Yes, I do that also many times. That's how I started reading the Bhagavatam. I learned that from Ma Vishnu Goswami, old Gujarati Swami. He left us more than 15 years ago, but he was the first that devotee I met practically. And he was reading the verses of the Bhagavatam with so much devotion and in these meters, different meters. And I learned these meters and I was chanting these verses, all these verses in these meters. And it becomes very devotional. If you know the meter, then you know what's long, what's short. It's automatically right. And you try to chant it with devotion and then try to understand the word for word. And then the translation that, and I was reading it also loudly, the whole Bhagavatam. And it makes a deep effect that if you are alone and you can read loudly, it's better, I think. Better, more effective. Yeah. Thank you. Good. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.